The ritual chamber filled with black smoke as 13 dark mages chanted in unison. Their voices echoed off the stone walls of the ancient castle, mixing with the screams of tortured souls trapped in the walls. Archmage Velthros stood at the center, his hands raised high, dark energy crackling between his fingers. "Brothers and sisters," Velthros shouted above the noise, "tonight we summon the ultimate weapon, a creature of pure destruction from beyond our world. With this being at our command, we will open the portal and claim the magicless realms for ourselves." The other mages nodded, their eyes glowing with hunger for power. They had spent years preparing this ritual. The spell circle on the floor burned with purple fire. Symbols older than memory pulsed with dark light. At the four corners of the room, bound creatures whimpered as their life force was drained to fuel the summoning. The air itself began to tear. Reality split open like fabric ripping apart. A portal formed, swirling with colors that hurt to look at. Wind rushed through the opening, carrying strange smells. The mages leaned forward, eager to see their weapon emerge. Something fell through the portal with a surprised yell. It was not what they expected. A human man tumbled onto the stone floor, wearing strange clothes covered in bright yellow and orange colors. On his head sat clear goggles. In his hands he clutched a metal device with tubes and wires. He looked around in confusion, his eyes wide with shock. "What? Where am I?" the man said in his own language, though the translation magic allowed everyone to understand. "I was just in the lab, and then—" "Silence," Velthros commanded. He stared at the human, his face twisted with disappointment. "What is this? Where is the demon lord we summoned? Where is the destroyer of worlds?" Wide, the human stood slowly, looking at the robed figures surrounding him. Jiwoo Park had been working late at his research facility in Seoul, testing his new plasma cutting tool. One moment he was alone in his lab. The next, he was here, wherever here was. "I think there's been a mistake," Jiwoo said carefully. He noticed the strange symbols on the floor, the unnatural fire, the way these people's hands glowed with energy. His scientific mind tried to process what he was seeing, even as fear gripped his chest. "A mistake indeed," another mage spat. "This creature has no magical aura at all. It is completely powerless." "Powerless?" Velthros moved closer, examining Jiwoo like he was an insect. "How disappointing. Still, perhaps it can serve as a slave. Better than nothing." Jiwoo stepped back, and his thumb accidentally pressed the activation button on his plasma cutter. A bright blue stream of superheated plasma shot out, cutting across the magical barrier that surrounded the summoning circle. The barrier shattered like glass. Every mage in the room gasped. Their supposedly unbreakable shield had been sliced through as if it were paper. Velthros's eyes went wide with shock, then narrowed with interest. "What manner of weapon is that?" he demanded. Jiwoo quickly shut off the device, his hands shaking. "It's not a weapon. It's a cutting tool. For industrial work. Please, I just want to go home." Velthros raised his hand and spoke words of power. Dark tendrils of magic shot toward Jiwoo, meant to wrap around him and bind him in place. But the spells passed through the space where Jiwoo stood and hit the wall behind him instead. The mages murmured in confusion. Binding spells always worked. Always. They locked onto a target's magical signature and held them prisoner. But this human had no magical signature at all. There was nothing for the spell to grip onto. "Interesting," Velthros said slowly. "The creature cannot be bound by conventional magic. Very well. We will do this the old way." He nodded to two large mages who stepped forward and grabbed Jiwoo's arms. They were strong, and Jiwoo was just an engineer who spent his days in a laboratory. They easily took his plasma cutter from his hands and dragged him toward the door. "Wait, please," Jiwoo protested. "I don't belong here. Send me back." "You will serve the Dark Council now, powerless one," Velthros declared. "Be grateful we let you live. Take him to the cells." As they dragged him through the dark corridors, Jiwoo looked around frantically. The castle was huge, built from black stone that seemed to absorb light. Torches burned with green flames. In alcoves along the walls, he saw cages holding strange creatures. Some looked almost human. Others were beings from nightmares. All looked thin and weak. The guards threw him into a small cell and slammed the iron door. Jiwoo heard them walk away, their footsteps echoing. He sat on the cold stone floor and tried to control his breathing. His mind raced, trying to make sense of what had happened. Magic. Real magic. It should have been impossible. But he had seen it with his own eyes. These people could create energy from nothing, or so it appeared. They could tear holes in reality itself, and they had accidentally grabbed him instead of whatever monster they wanted. Jiwoo stood and examined his cell. The door had no lock, or at least no physical lock. Instead, a glowing barrier of energy covered the doorway. When he reached toward it, his hand felt resistance, like pushing against thick rubber. He pulled back quickly when the barrier began to burn his skin. He walked around the small space, thinking. These people thought he was powerless because he had no magic. They saw his plasma cutter as some kind of weapon but didn't understand what it really was. That might be an advantage. If they underestimated him, maybe he could find a way out. Through the small window in his cell, Jiwoo could see other prisoners. They watched him with hollow eyes. Some were humanoid. Others were definitely not. All of them looked like they had given up hope. Outside his cell, Jiwoo heard voices. The mages were arguing. "We should sacrifice it to fuel the portal ritual," one voice said. "No, it might be useful." Another argued. "Did you see how its tool cut through our barrier? We should study it." The creature is beneath our notice," a third voice declared. "Make it clean the floors. That is all such powerless beings are good for." The voices faded as the mages moved away. Jiwoo sat back down, his mind working through the problem. He was trapped in another world, held by people who saw him as less than nothing. They planned to invade other worlds, places with no magic to defend themselves. He touched the wall of his cell, feeling the cold stone. Somewhere in this castle was his plasma cutter. If he could get it back, maybe he could cut through these energy barriers the way he had accidentally cut through the summoning circle. But escape was not enough. These dark mages were planning something terrible. And from what he had seen in those cages, they had been doing terrible things for a long time. Jiwoo was just an engineer. He had no magic, no combat training, no army. But he had knowledge these mages had never encountered. He understood physics, energy, thermodynamics. Maybe, just maybe, their magic followed rules too. Different rules than science, but rules nonetheless. If magic had rules, it could be understood. And if it could be understood, it could be countered. A young woman appeared at his cell door, carrying a bowl of thin soup. She wore the robes of a mage but looked younger than the others. Her eyes showed curiosity rather than cruelty. "You are the summoned one," she said quietly. "The one with no power." "My name is Jiwoo," he replied, taking the bowl. The young mage tilted her head, considering his words. "I am Sira, apprentice to the Dark Council." She paused, then added in an even quieter voice, "What did you mean by that? About having different power?" Jiwoo looked at her carefully. "Maybe. Just maybe. Not everyone in this castle was completely lost to cruelty." "Sit down," he said. "Let me tell you about a thing called physics." Jiwoo spent his first full day in the castle, watching and listening. The guards thought he was just a powerless creature, so they ignored him. That was their mistake. He observed everything. The castle ran on routines. Guards changed shifts at regular times. Mages performed rituals at specific hours. The magical barriers that lit the hallways flickered in patterns. Everything followed rules, just like any system back home. Sarah came to his cell 3 times that day, bringing food and water. Each time, she stayed a little longer. She was different from the other mages. Her questions were genuine, not mocking. "Why are you not afraid of the magic?" she asked on her 3rd visit. "Other prisoners cower when they see our power." Jiwoo finished the bread she had brought and thought about his answer. "Because magic is just another form of energy manipulation. It looks different from what I know, but the universe still has rules." "Rules?" Sarah frowned. "Magic is power over reality itself. We bend the world to our will." "Do you?" Jiwoo leaned forward. "Tell me something. When you cast a fire spell, how hot does the flame burn? Can you make it any temperature you want, or is there a limit?" Sarah opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. She had never thought about it before. "There are levels. Apprentice fire is cooler. Master fire burns hotter. But I never measured the temperature." "And teleportation," Jiwoo continued. "How far can you go? Can you teleport to a place you have never seen? Does it take more energy to move a heavy object than a light one?" "Of course, heavy objects take more power," Sarah said. "That is basic magic training." "Then magic follows rules," Jiwoo said simply. "It requires energy input and has limitations based on mass and distance. That's physics. You just use different words and different methods than we do." Sarah stared at him. No one had ever talked about magic this way. The Dark Council taught that magic was supreme, that it was above natural law. But this powerless human was suggesting that magic was just another tool for working within natural law. "I need to think about this," she said quietly, and left. Over the next few days, Jiwoo learned more about his captors. The Dark Council ruled the kingdom of Nethoria through fear and power. They had discovered that certain rituals could drain life force from living creatures and convert it into magical energy. This made them stronger than any normal mage. The creatures in the cages throughout the castle were not criminals. They were batteries. The mages kept them alive but weak, feeding on their life energy to fuel dark spells. When Jiwoo learned this, anger burned in his chest. But he kept his face calm. Getting angry would not help. He needed to think, to plan. Sarah began visiting him more often. She brought him scraps of metal and wire, things the mages considered garbage. She did not know why she was helping him, only that his words had planted questions in her mind that would not go away. With the scraps, Jiwoo began building. His hands remembered the work, even though his tools were primitive. He created a simple device using principles he had known since university. It was rough, nothing like the precision equipment in his lab, but it would work. "What is that?" Sarah asked, watching him twist wires together. "An analyzer," Jiwoo explained. "It measures energy fields. I want to study your magical barriers." "Why?" Sarah looked nervous. "If the council discovers you are trying to break through the barriers, they will kill you." "I am not trying to break through," Jiwoo said. He pointed the device at the energy barrier across his cell door. Numbers flickered in his head as he estimated frequencies and amplitudes. The barrier was not solid. It was a field that oscillated at a specific frequency, creating a wall of force. "Fascinating," he muttered. "It is like a standing wave pattern. The energy resonates at a fixed point, creating a barrier through constructive interference." "I do not understand those words," Sarah admitted. Jiwoo smiled. "Your barrier works because the energy vibrates at just the right speed to build on itself. Like when you push a child on a swing at exactly the right moment, and the swing goes higher. But if you push at the wrong moment, the swing stops. So if someone vibrated energy at the wrong frequency," Sarah began, "the barrier would collapse," Jiwoo finished. "Or at least weaken significantly." They looked at each other, both realizing the implications. The next day, guards came for Jiwoo. They dragged him to a large chamber where Archmage Velthros waited. In the center of the room stood a complex structure of metal and crystal, pulsing with dark energy. "Powerless one," Velthros said, his voice dripping with contempt. You will help us construct the portal frame. Your hands are steady. And this work is beneath true mages. Ji-Woo examined the structure. His engineering mind immediately recognized stress points and design flaws. The portal frame was impressive but inefficient. Power leaked through poorly connected joints. The crystal array was misaligned by at least 3 degrees. What does this portal do? Ji-Woo asked. It will open a permanent gateway to the magicless realms, Velthros said proudly. Your world, and others like it. Worlds full of powerless beings who cannot defend themselves against our might. We will take their resources, enslave their people, and expand our power infinitely. Ji-Woo felt cold anger settle in his stomach. You plan to invade Earth? Earth? Velthros laughed. Is that what your realm is called? Yes. We will take everything your world has, and you, little creature, are going to help us build the weapon of your own world's conquest. And if I refuse? Velthros gestured lazily. Dark tendrils of magic wrapped around Ji-Woo, lifting him into the air. Pain shot through every nerve in his body. He clenched his teeth to keep from screaming. You will help, Velthros said calmly. Or you will suffer. The choice is yours. The pain stopped. Ji-Woo dropped to the floor, gasping. The guards pulled him to his feet and pushed him toward the portal frame. He had no choice but to work. His hands connected components and adjusted alignments. But while he worked, he studied. He examined how the portal drew power from the dungeon below, where the imprisoned creatures were kept. He noted the energy flows and the control mechanisms. Every piece of information was a weapon he could use later. Sarah watched from the doorway, her face troubled. When the work session ended and guards returned Ji-Woo to his cell, she followed. She waited until they were alone. They are going to destroy your world, she whispered. I know, Ji-Woo said. And you are helping them. I am learning, Ji-Woo corrected. Sarah, do you think what the council is doing is right? Invading worlds full of innocent people? Sarah looked away. The council teaches that magic is the only true power. Those without magic are lesser beings, meant to serve those with magic. Do you believe that? I do not know what I believe anymore, Sarah admitted. You have no magic, but you are not stupid or weak. You understand things I cannot. And the council. She stopped, struggling with words. They are cruel. I have always known this, but I told myself it was necessary. That power required hard choices. Power does require hard choices. Ji-Woo agreed. But the choice should be to protect others, not to hurt them. Real strength is knowing you could hurt someone, and choosing not to. The council would kill me for thinking such things, Sarah said. Then we must make sure they do not find out, Ji-Woo replied. He looked at her seriously. I need your help, Sarah. I need to get into the dungeon where they keep the prisoners. I need to see how they are draining life force for the portal. That is forbidden. Only council members can enter the dungeon. Can you get me in? Sarah was quiet for a long time. Ji-Woo could see the war happening behind her eyes. Everything she had been taught said to obey the council, without question. But everything she had learned from talking to him said the council was wrong. Finally she nodded. Yes, I can get you in. But Ji-Woo, if we are caught, they will do worse than kill us. I know, Ji-Woo said. But if we do nothing, they will invade Earth and countless other worlds. Millions will die or be enslaved. I cannot live with that. Can you? Close. T-Manand. Keemanander Kar. Keemanander Kar. Keemanander Kar. Keemanander Kar. Keemanander Kar. Keemanander Kar. Sarah closed her eyes. No, I cannot. Then we act? Ji-Woo said. But not just to escape. We need to stop the portal. We need to free the prisoners. And we need to show the council that magic is not the only power in the universe. How can we fight the entire Dark Council? Sarah asked. They are the most powerful mages in the world, Jiwoo smiled, though there was no humor in it. Because they think I am powerless. They underestimate me because I have no magic. That is their mistake. My people have a saying. It is not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. I do not understand. It means strength is not just about power, Jiwoo explained. It is about will, about refusing to give up even when everything seems impossible. Your council has magic. Yes, but I have knowledge they have never encountered. And now, I have an ally. He looked at Sarah. Together, maybe we can do what seems impossible. Sarah took a deep breath. When do we start? Tonight? Jiwoo said. While the council performs their midnight ritual, we go to the dungeon. We learn everything we can. And then, we plan how to bring their dark empire down. In the shadows outside the cell, neither of them noticed the small magical sensor that had been recording every word. The castle was quieter at night. Most mages slept in their towers, trusting their magical wards to protect them. Only a few guards patrolled the hallways. And they were lazy. They had never faced a real threat within these walls. Sarah used a simple sleeping spell on the guard near Jiwoo's cell. The man slumped against the wall, snoring. She disabled the energy barrier with a whispered word. And Jiwoo stepped out into freedom for the first time in weeks. Follow me closely, Sarah whispered. Stay in my shadow. If anyone sees you, they will sound the alarm. They moved through the dark corridors like ghosts. Sarah knew all the secret paths, the servant passages that the council members never used. She had lived in this castle since she was a child, taken from her village when she showed magical talent. Have you ever questioned the council before? Jiwoo asked quietly, as they descended a spiral staircase. No, Sarah admitted. I was taught that the council was absolute, that their wisdom was beyond my understanding. But you ask questions that have no good answers. Why do we need to drain life from innocent creatures? Why must we conquer the magicless? When I ask myself these things, I find no answer, except cruelty. They reached a heavy iron door at the bottom of the stairs. Dark energy radiated from it, making the air feel thick and wrong. Sarah placed her hand on the door and spoke words of opening. The locks clicked, and the door swung inward. The smell hit them first. Death and decay and despair. Jiwoo covered his nose and forced himself to keep moving. The dungeon stretched out before them, a massive underground chamber filled with cages and chains. But these were not criminals imprisoned here. Jiwoo saw beings of every description. Some looked almost human. Others had wings or scales or multiple limbs. Children huddled next to adults. All of them were thin, their eyes hollow. This is where the council's power comes from, Sarah said, her voice shaking. We drain their life force slowly. Keep them alive, but weak. I knew this happened, but I never came down here before. I never saw. She could not finish. Tears ran down her face. Jiwoo walked to the nearest cage. Inside, a creature that looked like a cross between a human and a deer watched him with sad eyes. Its ribs showed through its skin. Magical chains around its neck pulsed with dark energy, feeding from its life force constantly. How long has this been happening? Jiwoo asked. Centuries, Sarah whispered. The council has done this for centuries. They teach us that these beings are lesser, that they exist to serve magical purposes, but they are people. I can see it now. They are people, and we are torturing them. Jiwoo examined the chains. They were connected to a complex network of tubes and crystals that ran throughout the dungeon. The system was brilliant and horrible. It collected life energy from hundreds of prisoners and channeled it upward to the ritual chamber and the portal frame. This is how they power the portal, Jiwoo said. They are using these people as living fuel cells. A small voice spoke from the shadows. You are the human, the one with no magic. Jiwoo turned. A young creature with blue skin and large eyes watched him through the bars of a cage. It looked like a child, perhaps 7 or 8 in human years. Yes, Jiwoo said gently. I am human. My name is Jiwoo. Are you going to hurt us? The child asked. No, Jiwoo said firmly. I am going to help you. All of you. I promise. But you have no power, the child said. The dark mages are too strong. Jiwoo knelt down to be at eye level with the child. I have different power. And more importantly, I have something the dark mages do not have. What is that? I know that you matter, Jiwoo said. I know that keeping you in these cages is wrong. The dark mages think power makes them right. But being strong does not make you good. Being good makes you strong. The child considered this. Will you really help us? Will. I promise, Jiwoo said. He stood and walked along the cages, studying the system. His engineer's mind mapped out the energy flows and connection points. This was just another machine. Really, cruel and evil, but still a machine. And all machines could be broken. Sarah had composed herself. She used her magic to read the runes carved into the walls. The portal ritual is in 3 days, she said. The cosmic alignment will be perfect then. The council plans to open the gateway and begin the invasion. 3 days, Jiwoo muttered. Not much time. What can we do? Sira asked. Even if we free these prisoners, they are too weak to fight, and we cannot defeat the entire council in battle. We do not need to defeat them in battle, Jiwoo said. We need to disrupt their power source. Look at this system. It is elegant but fragile. If we cut the right connections, the whole thing collapses. But the portal is not just powered by this, Sira protested. The cosmic alignment provides energy as well. No, Jiwoo said. The alignment does not provide energy. That violates conservation of energy. The alignment is just timing. The planets align, which creates gravitational fluctuations, which somehow makes it easier to punch through reality. But the actual power comes from here. From these prisoners. He pointed to the central crystal. A massive structure that glowed with stolen life force. That is the key. If we destroy that crystal during the ritual, the portal will collapse. Maybe violently. The explosion would destroy half the castle, Sira said. I know, Jiwoo replied. We need to get these prisoners out first. All of them. They spent an hour exploring the dungeon, mapping escape routes and studying the magical chains. Jiwoo used his makeshift analyzer to understand the binding spells. They were complex, but followed patterns. Everything followed patterns if you looked close enough. As they prepared to leave, Jiwoo heard a sound from above. Footsteps. Multiple people moving quickly. They know, Sarah said, her face going pale. Someone discovered us. They ran for the exit. But before they reached the door, it slammed shut. Archmage Velthros appeared at the top of the stairs, flanked by 6 senior mages. His face was twisted with rage. Traitor, he spat at Sarah. I suspected you had gone soft, but I did not think you would betray your own kind. My own kind, Sarah shouted back. You torture innocent beings for power. You plan to invade and enslave entire worlds. When did we become the monsters? Coming, Velthros laughed. We were always the monsters, child. That is what power means. The strong take what they want, and the weak suffer. This is the natural order. No, Jiwoo said, stepping forward. That is just what bullies tell themselves to justify being cruel. Velthros looked at him with contempt. The powerless one speaks. Tell me, human, what can you do against the might of the Dark Council? You have no magic. You are nothing. I do not need magic, Jiwoo said. Because I have something better. I have the knowledge that what you are doing is wrong. I have the will to stand against you, even though I am afraid. And I have friends." End quote. He looked at Sarah. She looked back at him, and he saw her fear transform into determination. She raised her hands, magic crackling around them. "I am with you," she said to Jiwoo. "Whatever happens, I will not let them continue this evil." Velthros's face darkened. "Then you will die with the human. Such a waste. You had potential, Sarah. You could have been great. I would rather die trying to help these people than live as a monster like you," Sarah replied. The Archmage raised his hand, dark energy building around it. "So be it. Kill them both. But keep the human alive long enough to watch his world burn. I want him to know that his resistance meant nothing. To Profession." The senior mages began to chant, preparing their most destructive spells. Energy filled the air, making it hard to breathe. Jiwoo knew they had seconds before the attack came, but he also knew something the mages did not. While he had been studying the dungeon, he had loosened 3 key connections in the crystal network. Not enough to break the system, but enough to make it unstable. "Sarah," he said calmly, "remember what I taught you about resonance? About pushing the swing at the right moment?" She looked confused for a second, then understanding lit her eyes. "You want me to disrupt the energy flow? At exactly the right frequency," Jiwoo confirmed. "Can you do it?" "I can try," Sarah said. The senior mages released their spells. Bolts of dark energy shot toward Jiwoo and Sarah, enough power to vaporize them instantly. Sarah threw up a shield, but she was just an apprentice. The shield would not hold for more than a moment. But in that moment, she did something she had never tried before. She pushed magic into the dungeon's crystal network at a specific frequency, one that Jiwoo had calculated would create destructive interference. The crystals began to vibrate. The energy flows stuttered. And then, with a sound like breaking glass, the entire system overloaded. Power exploded outward. The magical chains on every cage shattered simultaneously. Alarms screamed throughout the castle. The senior mage's attack spells dissipated as the ambient magical energy went chaotic. Velthro stumbled, his connection to the stolen life force suddenly cut. "Freed them," Jiwoo said simply. All around the dungeon, cage doors swung open. Hundreds of prisoners looked up, shocked to find their chains gone. They were weak, but they were free, and they were angry. The first creature to move was the blue-skinned child. She walked out of her cage with shaking legs and looked up at Velthros with something terrible in her eyes. "You hurt my mother," she said in a small voice. "You hurt all of us." For so long, other prisoners began to emerge. Some could barely walk. Others had more strength. They gathered together, drawing courage from each other. They had been powerless for so long. But power was not just magic. Power was also the will to fight back. Velthros tried to draw on his magic. But without the dungeon feeding him, he was just a normal mage. Strong. Yes, but not invincible. The other senior mages backed away, suddenly realizing they were outnumbered. "We need to go," Sarah said urgently to Jiwoo. "Now, while they are distracted." "Not yet," Jiwoo said. "We need my plasma cutter. It is in the ritual chamber. We will need it to destroy the portal. That is on the other side of the castle," Sarah protested. "Then we better run fast," Jiwoo said. They sprinted for the door, leaving Velthros surrounded by the prisoners he had tortured for so long. His screams of rage followed them up the stairs. The castle was in chaos. Freed prisoners were everywhere, stumbling through hallways, searching for exits. Mages tried to contain them, but there were too many. The carefully ordered Dark Empire was falling apart. Jiwoo and Sarah fought their way toward the ritual chamber. This was just the beginning. The real battle was still ahead, but for the first time since he had been pulled into this world, Jiwoo felt hope. He was not powerless. He never had been. Power was not about magic or strength. Power was about choosing to stand up, even when you were terrified. About deciding that some things were worth fighting for, no matter the cost. They burst through the doors into the ritual chamber. Ji-Woo's plasma cutter sat on a table, treated like a curiosity. He grabbed it and checked the power cell. Still functional. Now what? Sira asked. Now, Ji-Woo said, we stop them from ever doing this again. The castle shook with explosions as freed prisoners fought back against their captors. Ji-Woo heard screams and crashes echoing through the stone corridors. Some prisoners were trying to escape. Others were taking revenge on the mages who had tortured them for years. We have to move fast, Sarah said, watching the chaos through the ritual chamber windows. Once Velthros reorganizes the council, they will come here to protect the portal. Ji-Woo studied the portal frame. It stood in the center of the chamber, a complex structure of metal and crystal that hummed with building energy. Even without the dungeon's power, the device was charging. The cosmic alignment was close, and reality itself was getting thinner. Help me understand this, Ji-Woo said. You told me the portal needs massive amounts of energy to open. If the dungeon is disabled, where is the power coming from now? Sarah examined the magical runes surrounding the portal. Her face went pale. They built redundancy into the system. The portal is drawing power directly from the life force of the prisoners who are still in the castle. Everyone we freed is being drained again, automatically. Can you stop it? No, Sira said. Only a council member has the authority to shut down the portal ritual, and they will never do that. Ji-Woo thought quickly. Then we do not shut it down. We redirect it. What do you mean? Before Ji-Woo could answer, the chamber doors exploded inward. 3 mage guards rushed in, their hands glowing with destructive magic. Behind them came a group of freed prisoners, fighting desperately with claws and teeth and improvised weapons. Protect the portal, one guard shouted, throwing a ball of fire at the nearest prisoner. Ji-Woo moved without thinking. He activated his plasma cutter and swept it through the air. The superheated plasma stream cut through the fireball, dissipating it harmlessly. The guard stared in shock. What sorcery is this? The guard demanded. Not sorcery, Ji-Woo said. Science. He advanced on the guards, keeping his plasma cutter between them and the prisoners. The device was not designed as a weapon, but the guards did not know that. They saw the bright blue energy and felt its heat. They backed away. Your barrier spells will not stop this, Ji-Woo said calmly. I have already proven that. Leave now, and you can survive. Keep fighting, and you will regret it. One guard was smart enough to run. The other 2 attacked together, hurling bolts of dark energy. Ji-Woo rolled to the side, feeling the heat of the spells pass over him. Sira countered with her own magic, throwing up shields to protect the freed prisoners. A large creature, something like a wolf but with 6 legs and crystalline fur, leaped at one of the guards. Its teeth closed on the mage's arm. The man screamed and fell. The other guard tried to teleport away, but Sarah disrupted his spell. He flickered halfway through the teleport and crashed into the wall, unconscious. Thank you, the wolf creature growled to Ji-Woo in a deep voice. You freed us. We will help you fight. More freed prisoners poured into the chamber. They had been slaves and victims, but they were done being helpless. A woman with wings and scales coordinated them quickly. I am Kestra, she said to Ji-Woo. I was a warrior before the council captured me. Ji-Woo looked at the growing group of freed prisoners. They were weak and injured, but their eyes burned with determination. They had been given a chance to fight back, and they would not waste it. The portal is the key, Ji-Woo explained. The council plans to use it to invade other worlds. We need to destroy it. But destroying it while it is charging could kill everyone in the castle, Sarah warned. Not if we control the explosion, Ji-Woo said. Sarah, can you channel magic into the portal's control crystals? Yes, but why? Because I can use my plasma cutter to create specific ruptures in the portal frame, Ji-Woo explained. If we do it right, we can force the energy to vent upward instead of outward. The explosion will punch through the roof, but spare the people below. That is incredibly dangerous, Kestra said. If your calculations are wrong, we all die. If we do nothing, the portal opens in 2 days, Jiwoo countered. And then the council invades my world. Millions die. I will not let that happen. The freed prisoners looked at each other. Then, one by one, they nodded. We will hold off the council forces, Kestra said. You do what you need to do. Before they could begin, the main doors burst open again. Archmage Velthros strode in, his robes torn and his face bloody. Behind him came a dozen senior mages, all looking furious. You dare, Velthros snarled. You dare to destroy centuries of work, to free our power sources? I will make you suffer for eternity, human. You keep talking about power, Jiwoo said, standing his ground despite his fear. But you do not understand what real power is. Real power is not taking whatever you want. Real power is choosing to protect others even when it costs you everything. Philosophical nonsense, Velthros spat. Power is the ability to impose your will on reality. That is all. Everything else is weakness. Then you are already defeated, Jiwoo said. Because you do not understand the one thing that makes humans dangerous. We do not stop. We do not give up. Even when we are terrified, even when we have no hope, we keep fighting. That is our power. Velthros laughed. Then die fighting, human. It will not matter. The Archmage raised his hands, and dark energy swirled around him. The other mages joined their power to his. The air crackled with terrible force. They were going to unleash enough magical destruction to level the entire chamber. Now, Jiwoo shouted. Sarah and the freed prisoners acted together. Sarah threw every bit of her magic into disrupting the portal's energy flows, making the power spike unpredictably. Jiwoo activated his plasma cutter and cut precise lines into the portal frame's support structure. The freed prisoners with magical abilities added their power to Sarah's, creating chaos in the energy patterns. The portal frame began to vibrate violently. Warning runes flared all around it. The controlled energy buildup became an uncontrolled cascade. Velthros realized what was happening too late. No! He screamed. Stop them! The portal will... The explosion was massive. Energy erupted upward in a column of pure force. The ceiling disintegrated. Stone and metal vaporized. The shockwave knocked everyone to the ground, but Jiwoo's calculations held. The blast went up, not out. The chamber walls cracked but did not collapse. The freed prisoners survived, sheltered behind hastily erected barriers. When the dust settled, the portal frame was gone, destroyed completely. The cosmic alignment was hours away, but without the frame, there would be no invasion. The portal could not open. Velthros lay on the floor, his power broken. Around him, the senior mages groaned and tried to rise. They had poured their strength into the attack spell, and now they were vulnerable. The freed prisoners advanced on them slowly. After centuries of torture, they finally had their captors helpless. Please, one mage whimpered. We were just following orders. Like we had a choice when you tortured us, Kestra said coldly. Wait, Jiwoo said. He stepped forward, his plasma cutter still humming. The freed prisoners looked at him questioningly. They deserve death, Kestra said. After what they did to us. Maybe, Jiwoo agreed. But that is not our choice to make. You are free now. Do not become like them. Do not let revenge turn you into monsters. What would you have us do? Kestra demanded. Let them go? They will regroup and hunt us down. No, Jiwoo said. We make sure they cannot hurt anyone again. We take away their power, but we do not murder them in cold blood. That is the difference between justice and revenge. The freed prisoners muttered among themselves. They wanted blood. Jiwoo understood that. But he also knew that becoming killers would not heal their pain. Sarah spoke up. Ji-woo is right. If we kill them now, we are no better than they are. Let us strip them of their magical authority, destroy their weapons and artifacts, and exile them. Let them live as powerless beings, the way they treated all of you. Slowly, the prisoners nodded. It was not what they wanted, but it was right. And after so long in darkness, they wanted to do something right. Velthros laughed bitterly from the floor. You think you have won? The council is bigger than just us. There are dark mages across the kingdom. They will come for you. They will rebuild. You cannot stop us all. Maybe not, Ji-woo admitted. But we stopped you. And we will stop the others too, one by one if we have to. Because that is what you never understood. We do not need to be stronger than you. We just need to never give up. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the castle. Sierra ran to the window and looked out. More mages are coming, she said. Council reinforcements from the outer towers. There must be 50 of them. We cannot fight that many, Kestra said. Not in our condition. Ji-woo looked around the damaged chamber. The portal was destroyed, but they were trapped. The freed prisoners were exhausted. Sierra was running low on magical energy, and he was just a human with a plasma cutter that was nearly out of power. But he was not ready to give up. Not yet. Sarah, he said. The portal frame is destroyed, but the control crystals are still intact. The cosmic alignment is almost here. What happens if we activate the crystals without the frame to focus the energy? Sierra thought for a moment. Then her eyes went wide. A raw portal would open, completely unstable. It would tear through reality randomly, pulling in anything nearby. Could we aim it? Ji-woo asked. Make it open in a specific place? Theoretically, but why would we? Sarah stopped. You want to open a portal to evacuate everyone. To Earth, Ji-woo said. My home. The council does not know where it is exactly, and without the portal frame, they cannot follow. We can get everyone to safety. That is insane, Kestra said. An uncontrolled portal could kill us all. So could staying here, Ji-woo pointed out. At least this way we have a chance. The sounds of approaching mages grew louder. They were running out of time. Do it, Kestra said. We trust you, human. You have not failed us yet. Ji-woo and Sarah worked frantically, rewiring the control crystals and bypassing safety systems. This was not careful engineering. This was desperate improvisation. But Ji-woo had learned that sometimes, desperate times called for desperate solutions. The cosmic alignment reached its peak. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Ji-woo activated the crystals. A portal ripped open in the middle of the chamber, swirling with chaotic energy. Through it, Ji-woo could see his laboratory back in Seoul. It looked impossibly far away, but it was home. Go, he shouted. Everyone through the portal. The freed prisoners did not hesitate. They plunged through the gateway, disappearing into Earth. Kestra organized the evacuation, making sure the weakest went first. The reinforcement mages burst into the chamber, but they were too late. The portal was open, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. Velthros struggled to his feet, his face twisted with hate. You will pay for this, he hissed. I will hunt you across worlds, if I have to. Then you will have to catch me first, Ji-woo said. Sierra grabbed his arm. Ji-woo, the portal is collapsing. We have to go now. Vorders everything RUR. Vorders everything RUR. The last of the freed prisoners jumped through. Sarah leaped after them. Ji-woo took one last look at Velthros and the fallen Dark Council. Your empire ends today, Ji-woo said. Remember that it was a powerless human who brought it down. He jumped through the portal just as it collapsed. The last thing he heard was Velthros screaming in rage. Then he was falling through light and color and chaos. For a moment, Ji-woo thought he would be lost forever. in the space between worlds. Then he hit solid ground, his laboratory floor. He was home. Ji-woo lay on the cold floor of his laboratory, gasping for breath. Around him, dozens of freed prisoners materialized through the collapsing portal, tumbling onto the tile in confusion and fear. The portal flickered one last time and vanished with a sound like tearing paper. Sierra landed next to him, her robes singed and her face pale. "We made it," she whispered. "We actually made it." Before Ji-woo could respond, reality tore open again. But this was different. Darker. More violent. Another portal ripped into existence, and through it stepped Archmage Velthros. The Dark Mage looked terrible. His robes were burned. Blood ran down his face. But his eyes burned with insane fury. Behind him, 3 senior mages stumbled through, before the unauthorized portal collapsed. "Did you think you could escape me?" Velthros screamed. "I used the last of my life force to follow you, human. I will not let you live. I will not let any of you live." He raised his hands, and dark energy crackled around him. This was not a spell meant to capture or control. This was pure destruction, powered by rage and desperation. Ji-woo tried to move, but his body was exhausted. His plasma cutter was completely out of power. He had nothing left to fight with. Sarah threw herself in front of him, raising a magical shield. "No!" she shouted. "I will not let you hurt anyone else." Velthros's death spell hit her shield with terrible force. The barrier held for 1 second. 2. Then it cracked. Sarah screamed as dark energy poured through, striking her directly in the chest. She collapsed, smoke rising from her body. Her eyes found Ji-woo's, and he saw her lips move. "Sorry," she mouthed silently. "Sarah." Ji-woo crawled to her side, cradling her head. She was barely breathing. The death magic was consuming her from the inside. "Touching," Velthros said mockingly. "The powerless human and the traitor apprentice. You cost me everything. My power. My empire. My life's work. Now I will take everything from you." He began chanting again, gathering energy for another spell. The other senior mages joined him, their voices rising in terrible harmony. This spell would kill everyone in the room. Ji-woo felt rage and grief explode in his chest. Sarah had saved him. She had chosen to stand against her own people, to risk everything for what was right. And now she was dying because of him. He looked down at his plasma cutter. Empty, useless, just a tool without power. But wait. Not completely empty. Every power cell had a safety reserve, emergency energy locked behind fail-safes to prevent total system failure. Accessing it would destroy the device. The plasma would become unstable, possibly explode. But Ji-woo did not care anymore. His hands moved quickly, bypassing safety systems and overriding shutdown protocols. The plasma cutter began to hum again. But the sound was wrong. Too high-pitched. The device was shaking itself apart. "You cannot stop this," Velthros taunted. "You have no power." "You keep saying that," Ji-woo said, his voice eerily calm. He stood up, the overloaded plasma cutter in his hands. "You say, I have no power, because I have no magic. But you are wrong. Power is not magic. Power is not strength. Power is the choice to stand up when everything seems hopeless. Power is fighting for what is right, even when you are terrified." He pointed the plasma cutter at Velthros. "You want to see real power? Human power? Let me show you." 1. Ji-woo pulled the trigger. The overloaded device unleashed a blast of superheated plasma unlike anything it was designed to produce. The stream was blindingly bright, a miniature sun contained in pure physics. Velthros threw up a magical barrier. The same kind that had protected him for centuries. The barrier that was supposed to be unbreakable. The plasma cut through it like it was paper. Velthros's eyes went wide with shock. He tried to teleport, but Jiwoo had learned about magic now. He knew teleportation took a moment to activate. He swept the plasma stream across the space where Velthros would materialize. The Archmage appeared directly in the plasma's path. He had time for one scream before the superheated energy consumed him. Then, he was gone. Vaporized instantly. The three senior mages stared in horror. They had seen their supposedly invincible leader destroyed in seconds by a powerless human with a simple tool. "Leave," Jiwoo said coldly. "Go back to your world, and tell every mage you meet what you saw here. Tell them that magic is not the only power in the universe. Tell them that humans do not bow to bullies, no matter how strong they are." The mages did not need to be told twice. They opened a portal and fled, disappearing back to Nethoria. The plasma cutter sparked and died in Jiwoo's hands, completely destroyed. He dropped it and ran back to Sera's side. She was still alive, barely. The death magic had stopped spreading when Velthros died, but the damage was severe. Jiwoo pressed his hands against her wound, trying to stop the bleeding, but he knew it was not enough. "Sera, stay with me," he begged. "Please. You cannot die. Not after everything we did. Not after you chose to help us." Her eyes fluttered open. Did we win?" "Yes," Jiwoo said, tears running down his face. "We won. The portal is destroyed. The prisoners are free. You saved them all." "Good," Sera whispered. "I am glad. Glad I helped." "Sera, please," Jiwoo sobbed. "I do not know how to heal this. I do not know magic. I am just an engineer." Kestra appeared at his side, her wings folded tight. "Let me see." She examined Sera's wound, her face grave. "The death magic is too deep. It is eating her life force. She has minutes at most. There has to be something," Jiwoo said desperately. "Some way to save her." "There is one way," a small voice said. The blue-skinned child from the dungeon stepped forward. "My people have healing magic. Pure magic. Not the dark kind. But I am just a child. I do not have much power. Please," Jiwoo begged. "Try. Anything." The child nodded. She placed her small hands on Sera's chest and closed her eyes. A soft, golden light began to glow, warm and gentle. It was nothing like the harsh, dark magic of the council. This was the magic of life and growth and healing. Other freed prisoners gathered around, seeing what the child was doing. One by one, they added their power to hers. Some had healing abilities. Others just had hope and will. But together, they poured their energy into saving the woman who had helped free them. The golden light grew brighter. Sera gasped, her back arching. The dark wound on her chest began to close, the death magic driven back by the combined power of dozens of grateful beings. When the light faded, Sera lay still. For a terrible moment, Jiwoo thought they were too late. Then, her eyes opened, clear and bright. "Jiwoo?" she said weakly. He laughed through his tears and pulled her into a careful hug. "You are alive. You are alive." "Of course I am alive," Sera said with a small smile. "Someone has to keep you out of trouble." Around them, the freed prisoners cheered. They had survived, they had escaped, and they had saved one of their own. The days that followed were chaotic. Jiwoo had to explain to his shocked colleagues why his laboratory was suddenly full of beings from another dimension. The government got involved. Scientists wanted to study the refugees. Some people were afraid. Others were welcoming. But Jiwoo and Sera worked tirelessly to help the freed prisoners adjust to Earth. They established a sanctuary where the refugees could live safely while learning about their new home. Some chose to try to find ways back to Nethoria, to free others still trapped there. Others decided to make Earth their new home. Sera taught the humans about magic, sharing knowledge that had been hoarded by the Dark Councils for centuries. In return, humans taught her about science and technology. She was fascinated by how much the two systems had in common, when you looked past the surface differences. 3 months after the escape, Jiwoo and Sierra stood on the roof of the sanctuary, looking out at the city lights of Seoul. The blue-skinned child, whose name was Lyra, played nearby with other refugee children. They were laughing, something that had been rare in the dungeons of Nethoria. "Do you think they will come for us?" Sarah asked. "Probably," Jiwoo admitted. "But if they do, they will find out that Earth is not as helpless as they think. We have no magic, but we have 7 billion humans who do not like bullies, and now we have friends from other worlds too." "You changed everything," Sarah said quietly. "One human with no magic, and you brought down an empire that had lasted for centuries." "I did not do it alone," Jiwoo said. "You chose to help me. The prisoners chose to fight back. We did it together." "But you started it," Sarah insisted. "You refused to accept that being powerless meant being helpless. You taught us all that power comes from choice, not from magic or strength." Jiwoo thought about that. "I was scared the entire time," he admitted. "Every moment, I thought I was going to die, but I kept thinking about all those people in cages, all those worlds the Council wanted to invade. I could not just do nothing." "That is what makes humans special," Sarah said. "Not that you are stronger or smarter, but that you keep fighting even when you are terrified. You face impossible odds, and you do not give up." "Is that really special?" Jiwoo asked. "Or is that just what anyone should do?" "Most people do not do it," Sarah said. "Most people, when faced with overwhelming power, bow their heads. They accept their fate. But you looked at the Dark Council, at beings who could destroy you with a thought, and you said no. That is special." Kestra landed on the roof, folding her wings. She had been flying patrol, watching for any signs of magical threats. "The perimeter is clear," she reported. Then she smiled. "Also, I have good news. 3 more refugees arrived today. They used the underground network we established to escape from Nethoria." 3 more free," Jiwoo said, smiling. "That is good." "They asked about you," Kestra continued. "About the human who fought the Dark Council. Your legend is spreading in Nethoria. Some call you the Powerless Warrior. Others call you the Breaker of Chains." Jiwoo felt uncomfortable with the titles. "I am just an engineer." "You are more than that," Kestra said seriously. "You are proof that magic does not make someone important. You showed that what matters is what you choose to do with whatever power you have, even if that power seems small." A portal flickered open nearby, and everyone tensed. But it was just one of the refugee mages who had learned to create stable gateways. She emerged, carrying supplies from a friendly settlement in another dimension. The multiverse was bigger than Jiwoo had ever imagined. Nethoria was just one world among countless others. And now that the secret of portal magic was spreading, new alliances were forming. Worlds that had suffered under dark mages were connecting, sharing knowledge, planning their own resistance. "Do you miss your old life?" Sarah asked Jiwoo. "Before you were pulled into all this?" Jiwoo considered the question. His life had been simple before. Safe. Predictable. Now he was at the center of an interdimensional refugee crisis and a brewing rebellion against dark magic users across multiple worlds. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But I cannot go back. And I do not think I want to. What we are doing here matters. We are building something new. A place where magic and science work together. Where power does not mean domination. A better world," Sarah said softly. "Many better worlds," Jiwoo corrected. Lyra ran up to them, her eyes bright with excitement. "Jiwoo! Sarah! Come see. We made something." They followed her down to the workshop that had been set up in the sanctuary. There, a group of young refugees from a dozen different worlds were working together on a project. Some used magic, others used tools and technology, and some used abilities that were neither magic nor science but something else entirely. Together, They had built a communication device that could send messages across dimensional barriers. A way for separated families to talk to each other. A way to coordinate the growing resistance. "This is amazing," Jiwoo said, examining their work. "You all did this together?" "You taught us," one young refugee said. "You taught us that our differences make us stronger. That working together is better than fighting alone." Jiwoo felt his chest tighten with emotion. This was what he had been fighting for. Not just to stop the Dark Council, but to show that there was another way. That power could be used to help instead of hurt. That night, Jiwoo sat in his small apartment, working on plans for new projects, ways to help refugees, ways to defend against magical threats, ways to build bridges between worlds. Sarah found him there, surrounded by papers and half-built devices. "You should rest," she said gently. "You have been working for 16 hours straight." "There is so much to do," Jiwoo protested. "There will always be more to do," Sarah said. "But you cannot help anyone if you work yourself to death." She was right, of course. Jiwoo put down his tools and stretched, his back cracking. "Can I ask you something?" Sarah said. "When Velthros had me cornered, when he was about to kill everyone, you overloaded your plasma cutter. You destroyed your most valuable tool to save us." "Why?" "Because tools can be rebuilt," Jiwoo said simply. "People cannot. You mattered more than the device." "But that device was your only weapon," Sarah pointed out. "Without it, you were truly powerless." Jiwoo smiled. "I learned something in Nethoria. I was never powerless. None of us are. Because real power does not come from weapons or magic or physical strength. It comes from here." He touched his chest. "From the choice to do what is right, even when it is hard. From the courage to stand up, even when you are afraid. From the will to protect others even when it costs you everything." "That is a very human way of thinking," Sarah observed. "Maybe," Jiwoo agreed. "But I think it is also a universal way of thinking. You proved it when you chose to help me. The freed prisoners proved it when they fought back. Power is not something you have. It is something you choose to do." Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "The council taught me that magic made me superior. That those without magic were lesser beings. But you showed me that I had it backward. What made me lesser was thinking I was superior. What makes someone great is not what powers they have, but what they choose to do for others." "Exactly," Jiwoo said. "And that is what we are building here. A place where everyone matters, regardless of their abilities. Where we judge people by their choices, not their power." Through the window, they could see the lights of the sanctuary. Beings from a dozen worlds, living together, learning from each other, building something new. "Do you think we will succeed?" Sarah asked. "Do you think we can really change things?" "I do not know," Jiwoo said honestly. "The Dark Council is still out there. There are other threats we have not even discovered yet. The fight is far from over." "But," Sarah prompted. "But we have already proven something important," Jiwoo said. "We proved that you do not need to be the strongest or the most powerful to win. You just need to be brave enough to try. And to never, ever give up." He looked at Sarah. This young woman who had risked everything to do what was right. He thought about Kestra and Lyra, and all the others who had found the courage to fight back. He thought about his fellow humans, who were welcoming these refugees despite their fears. "Plasma and black magic," Jiwoo said. "Science and sorcery. They seem like opposites, but they are really just different tools. Neither is better. Neither is worse. What matters is what we build with them." "And what are we building?" Sarah asked. Jiwoo smiled. "Hope. We are building hope. And that is the most powerful thing in any universe." Far away, in the dark towers of Nethoria, the remnants of the Dark Council plotted their revenge. But in the dungeons below those towers, prisoners who had heard the story of the powerless warrior began to whisper among themselves. They began to believe that freedom was possible. They began to plan. And in sanctuaries across a dozen worlds, refugees who had escaped tyranny worked together to help others escape. They shared knowledge. They built defenses. They proved that cooperation was stronger than domination. The war was not over. It might never be over. But the balance had shifted. The dark empires that ruled through fear now had to contend with something they had never expected. They had to contend with hope. And hope, once ignited. Jiwoo Park had been just an engineer working late in his lab. He had no magic, no special powers, no destiny. But when pulled into an impossible situation, he had made a choice. He chose to fight. He chose to help others. He chose to stand up to bullies, even when he was terrified. And that choice had changed everything. Because in the end, power was not about magic or strength or weapons. Power was about choice. The choice to do what was right. The choice to protect the helpless. The choice to never give up. No matter how impossible things seemed. That was human power. Not because humans were special or superior, but because humans refused to accept that being afraid meant doing nothing. They felt the fear and acted anyway. And sometimes, that was enough. Sometimes, one person choosing to do the right thing could start a revolution, could bring down an empire, could light a fire of hope that spread across worlds. Jiwoo looked out at the city lights and smiled. But tonight, refugees slept safely. Families were reunited. And across multiple worlds, people who had been powerless were learning that they had power all along. They just needed someone to show them what real power looked like. And it looked like a scared engineer with a plasma cutter, standing up to an archmage and saying, "No more." It looked like courage in the face of fear. It looked like compassion in a world of cruelty. It looked like hope in the darkness. That was power. Real power. The kind that changed worlds. And it had nothing to do with magic at all.